Hello, I'm Bruce DePoy. Coming up today on News Talk, turmoil in the House of Representatives as Kevin McCarthy withdraws his bid to become the next Speaker. Tensions between the small but powerful bloc of conservatives and the rest of the GOP conference causing a schism that may not be easily closed. The selection of a successor to John Boehner put off as the search for a new leader intensifies. Today on the program, analysis from two men who know Capitol Hill like the back of their hand, former Congressman Tom Davis and Dan Scandling, former Chief of Staff to Frank Wolf. Then, can I eat that? In our Friday Focus on You, we'll ask personal trainer Joseph Brandenburg about several of our favorite food groups. Will your favorite pass the test? Find out.
From News Channel 8, this is News Talk with Bruce DePoy.
Hello and welcome. It's great to have you with us today. We've got a terrific lineup for you. Congressman Kevin McCarthy, the frontrunner to replace John Boehner as Speaker of the House, says he's out. With family by his side, he told a closed-door meeting of Republicans in the House he is not their guy. This means John Boehner will stay on until a new Speaker is chosen, but there's no obvious choice for the post so far. Correspondent Dana Bash reports now that while tensions among House Republicans are not new, no one saw McCarthy's exit coming.
There's congressional chaos, then there's this. The Republican meeting to vote for a new speaker ending abruptly after the frontrunner, Kevin McCarthy, shocked everyone, suddenly dropping out of the race.
People are absolutely stunned.
I mean, you were behind him. Are you stunned?
Yeah, totally stunned. No idea what was coming. No one did.
You were just in there. What happened?
Kevin McCarthy, just like John Boehner did, put the country and the Congress and the conference before his own interests. It was a very honorable thing to do. I think he recognized and shared with the conference that he was afraid his candidacy might further divide the caucus and further divide the party across the country.
Behind closed doors, that's exactly what Kevin McCarthy told his colleagues.
I think I shocked some of you, huh?
And what he repeated to reporters after the news got out.
If we are going to unite and be strong, we need a new face to help do that. So nothing more than that.
That and raw numbers. Despite McCarthy's public confidence only an hour earlier,
Very well.
Sources close to McCarthy say he realized getting approval from the majority of the House, 218 votes, was going to be tough. And CNN is told McCarthy decided the demands many conservative members were making in exchange for their votes, those in the so-called Freedom Caucus, would have made him too weak to be effective. Tim Huelskamp is one of some 40 Republicans in that House Freedom Caucus.
But we were looking at how do we work together. We're looking for a speaker who works with conservatives rather than against us. And we presumed Kevin was going to reach out to us and say, hey, what do we need to do? What changes do we need to make?
Moderates like Charlie Dent worry it will be hard to find a Republican member who will appeal to those conservatives but still actually lead the entire House, as the Constitution requires the Speaker to do.
The next Speaker should not appease those who make unreasonable demands. There are a number of members of our conference who simply cannot get the yes on anything.
Daniel Webster and Jason Chaffetz, the two other Republicans in the race for Speaker, are a bit speechless.
I did not see that coming.
But still in.
Because we need to find somebody that our whole body can unite behind and do what we were elected to do.
Correspondent Dana Bash reporting there, and joining us now, former Northern Virginia Congressman Tom Davis. While in the House, he chaired a key committee. He was also head of the NRCC. Dan Scandling is here. He was Chief of Staff to Northern Virginia Congressman Frank Wolf. It's great to have both of you here. Tom, let me start with you. What do you think was at the heart of Kevin McCarthy's decision?
Well, I think he figured he just probably couldn't get to 218 on the floor without succumbing to some unreasonable demands that would make his speakership a disaster. So he kind of threw it open and said, let somebody else try him. What
do you think changed going into the meeting? He seemed confident he'd prevail. Do you think something happened in the meeting?
No, I don't think anything happened in the meeting. I think they just looked at it, looked at what they were going to have to go through. Look, this was a nasty race behind the scenes, and I think he just looked at it and decided, this is probably not my time. I think there'll be a time for Kevin McCarthy. He's a very accomplished leader. But at this point, you've got about 40 holdouts that weren't going to support him on the floor. These are the folks that say the rest of us are Republicans in name only, but you get a Republican caucus member, with the Republican imprint on the floor, and they won't support him because he's not the right kind of Republican. So it's madness.
Dan, as a top aide to a long-serving member of Congress, you know the Hill well. Were you as taken aback? Were you as surprised as seemingly everyone else?
Not really. As it dragged out, you kind of saw that maybe something was going to happen. You had the Benghazi issue that spurred things on, and then I think he just realized he wasn't going to get the numbers. And when the Freedom Caucus says that we're not going to support you, we're going to vote in block, that becomes a problem because you can't go to the 218 and get it on the floor if you don't have all those members. So, and also, who wants to be Speaker at this point? It's a terrible job.
I mean, the folks in our area tend to be moderate. Can you give us a sense of who this so-called who comprises this so-called Freedom Caucus?
I would describe them as ultra-conservatives that are from districts that are 65% Republican, that don't believe in compromise. And that's what governing is about. But you also have to understand, and I've said this a lot, that the Democrats have the same issue with some of their members too. This isn't just an issue of Republicans. The Democrats have members or in districts that are just as Democratic, and they also don't worry about things. But some of these Freedom Caucus guys, they're more concerned about a primary and more concerned about, winning the battle than winning the war. And that's not what governing is. When you come to Washington, you have to compromise.
We throw these labels around, Tom, like establishment and chamber-type Republican and Freedom Caucus and Tea Party and things of this nature. I'm wondering whether, if folks were really in a room having conversation, and I know it does happen from time to time, are the differences more stylistic than substantive, or are we talking about moderates, conservatives, and ultra-conservatives on the policy substance?
It's more complicated, but the Republican conference has become more southern and more rural, and therefore, I mean, not exclusively, but you have a hardcore group out there that are reflecting the values of their districts. The difficulty comes now when it comes to running for re-election. Their only race is the primary election. And when they compromise, they get beat up by cable news, talk radio, and these super PACs. And there's nobody there to step up and defend them. And so they're basically looking after their own re-elections and responding to their constituents. Compromise has always been tough, but it's never been tougher than it is today. The Democrats have the same problem, but because they have a president that they can unite behind and kind of set the agenda, it makes it a little bit easier. You unplug President Obama from the Democratic coalition, and they have similar problems.
Is Paul Ryan in a unique position to...
He is in a unique position. He was on the national ticket. He's widely regarded intellectually within the House as somebody who is very, very competent on budget issues. I think he foresees the same governance issues, though. The fact that if you're going to move ahead on debt ceiling, you want to move ahead with a budget for the year, you want to move ahead on the highway program. There's no silver bullet. You have to make some tough choices, and you can't be pure. And I'm not sure he thinks this is his time, and he's got young kids besides this. So, as Dan said, really, who wants it at this point? It's a very, very difficult job. A majority of the House can coalesce around this, but you can't get big chunks, a majority of the Republican conference to agree to what a majority of the Democratic conference would agree to, and that's the difficulty.
Sorry to interrupt. Presumably a lot of people from inside the chamber and I'm guessing party leaders from outside the House chamber say to him today and over the weekend that your party, your country, and the House need you. Do you think he can be prevailed upon to
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, he'll be, you get enough unity behind that, but he's got to sit down with this Freedom Caucus and say, guys, I'm willing to do this. And here's where we agree and we disagree, but I'm going to need you to take some tough votes with me because I can't deliver this alone. Really, the dilemma is simply this. If the Republican conference coalesced behind something, that would mean compromises on the part of the moderates and the more conservative elements. But you still get a product. It's going to be a more conservative model than if you have to go to the Democrats and do it, which is what Boehner's been forced to do. So you get a better work product when the conference works together from a conservative point of view. But these folks aren't interested in that.
And one of the demands from the Freedom Caucus was no more Senate brokered deals. Well, that's unrealistic. I mean, the Senate's going to have Democrats, and they're going to broker deals, and that's the way it's going to operate, and you have to have compromise. They've got some major votes coming up here in the next couple of weeks that I'm not sure you can get everybody in the caucus together on, and they're going to need Democrats to deal with the debt ceiling and another government shutdown potentially.
Is there a role for Democrats in the speaker selection process and on the issues you reference?
I don't think so. I know Bernie Frank had made a comment about that yesterday, but I don't think that's realistic. That would be suicide for a member for whoever's running to say that I'm going to have Democrats support me for Speaker, because that's exactly what they don't want.
What they can do is stay off the floor, because you need a majority of those present voting.
Interesting.
Boehner only had 216 votes when he was elected this year, but you had a lot of Democrats that were going up to Governor Cuomo's funeral. You had some Republicans out, so it was masked. They could not do that for McCarthy. He made these Benghazi comments, and you couldn't see as aiding McCarthy going to the speakership. Ryan, they may have similar problems. I believe that had you had members try to take Boehner down, you would have had Democrats that would have stayed off the floor. But right now, I think the Democrats are saying, hey, guys, you Republicans, you solve it. They're going to reap the benefits the longer this goes on. It hurts the Republican brand.
Do you agree that Paul Ryan, out of all those members, and as an interesting footnote, you don't have to be a member of the House to be Speaker of the House. Tom, I'll nominate you since you're here.
I thought you were my friend.
You can, then you can provide the second. Is Paul Ryan, does he have a unique skill set, a unique temperament, etc.?
He's viewed as a unifier, but again, that's a question not only does he have to have with the caucus, but with his family. The Speaker, a big part of the job is raising money. Speaker Boehner, since 2009, has raised over $300 million for the Republican Party, $35 million alone this year. There was a recent story that talked about he's out of Washington and out of Ohio almost 180 days out of the year. Paul Ryan has small children. His family's still in Wisconsin. Is he really ready to give all that up? That's a big question.
Well, let me add to this. And he's in a swing seat. You've got to look at his district in Wisconsin. It's not a solid Republican seat, which is what makes him so good, is he knows how to deal with Democrats. He's done it all the time. But you could foresee a scenario where Ryan says, all right, I'll be new Speaker, but I want to keep the tax stuff in the Speaker's office. I'll let the next guy be chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, and we'll work with them, but I'm still in charge of that. And McCarthy, you're the guy who's going to have to go around the country raising the money, because I'll do the Washington fundraising, I'll do an occasional trip, but you're going to have to take the bulk of it. So that would have to be the deal, I think, to get him there, to do it. But remember, first decision you make, you start alienating members.
And there's consideration for him down the road. If he wants to run in 8 years, does he want all the hits that serving now might bring?
Well, I think that badly damages. You've only had one Speaker in history become president, James K. Polk, and that was a different era.
Talking with Tom Davis and Dan Scandling. We'll take a quick break here. We're back, though, with much more right after this.